Relative and absolute truth. One may wonder if realizing the absolute truth doesn't make everyday life and ordinary things absurd. It does not, because when one gains realization into the absolute nature of things, everyday life does not become contradictory in that sense. This is called the realization of the two truths. This means that one studies on the absolute level the way things really are, and on the relative level one studies the way things take place according to very strict laws of interdependence. The relative world has its relative truth, and the absolute truth also has its truth. If it weren't like that, absolute truth would be called the truth, and relative truth would be called lies. But it is called the absolute truth and the relative truth, so it is seeing the way things really are when one looks absolutely, or whether one considers the way things seem to manifest. When we realize both of these truths together, it helps us to live in the relative sense, and it is of great practical use. For instance, if someone becomes angry and aggressive towards us, normally we become excited and flare up and fight back. If we realize that what is taking place is a relative and dependent situation, and we are aware of the two truths, then we don't need to strike back. Because we don't strike back, we don't harm ourselves through generating negative karma, and we don't harm the other person. So the two truths are useful. We can see the two things happening, the relative situation emerging, and the value of what is taking place from the absolute truth. It is the same with desire. Normally, we are subject to desire and want things. If we can't get them, we become upset, thinking, I must have that, I can't carry on without it, or I need it. And if we don't get it, then our life becomes very miserable. Or if we have something like a precious statue or vase, and one day it gets scratched or breaks, we become upset and feel, now it is ruined, I loved that thing. However, when we understand the relative and absolute truth, we realize there is something useful to learn if we get it, or don't get it, and therefore we don't mind. We don't build a situation of desire or become heartbroken if something gets scratched or spoiled. So understanding the two truths enables us to live very skillfully, and once we have that deep realization, then we still go on trying to make the relative world more beneficial. It all becomes like a play or a dream. We are still working to make a beneficial situation, but because there is no longer any grasping, we work in a more relaxed way. We may think wanting to practice the Dharma is also grasping, but there is a difference between desire and a desire for good, which is often called aspiration. In Tibetan, these are two different words. Desire, in Tibetan, chagpa, means wanting things for oneself. It has the feeling of attachment, involvement, grasping, and self-interest. Aspiration, in Tibetan mopa, has the meaning of concern with good things, of helping others, and of seeing what is necessary and wishing to do what is necessary and useful. As our wisdom and insight grows, then, hopefully, our desires will decrease. On the other hand, our aspiration will increase because of the growth of wisdom and insight. An example of this might be that we fall asleep and begin to dream of being attacked by a tiger. We are full of fear, and if there is someone nearby who is clairvoyant, he or she would see what we are dreaming and would know we were dreaming of a tiger. So the clairvoyant wakes us up and says, there is no need to be frightened of the tiger, it's just a dream, it's not really there. When we see the true nature of things, absolute truth, our aspiration grows, and we want to do what is beneficial and useful. We are like the clairvoyant person and aspire to help relieve the suffering we see in others. The effect of attachment can be seen in the behavior of couples. If they are not very involved with each other and just like each other, then they can have a sweet and smooth relationship. But when they have great attachment and involvement in each other, then it only takes one of them to go somewhere for a few minutes or to talk to someone else to cause the other partner to ask, what did you say? What did you do? Where had you gone? One can see that great involvement in the situation causes a lot of difficulties. When one develops wisdom, the involvement decreases and aspiration increases. At Namo Buddha in Nepal, where Thrangu Rinpoche has his 3-year retreat center, the Buddha in a former life gave his body to the tigress and her cubs who were starving. There was a great benefit to him when he saw the tigress and her cubs before him, because at that instant he realized that the thousands and thousands of previous physical lives had not really served much benefit to beings. Each time that he died, his body was burned and buried. But it had not been of much use to anyone. He could see that there was the opportunity to actually use the substance of his body for some real benefit, to save lives by feeding the tigress and her cubs. Because he had this blend of compassion and wisdom, he knew that by giving so totally he would develop and perfect the paramita of generosity, and through its karmic power would give tremendous impetus to his development of wisdom in the future. The Buddha then could see not only the immediate benefit of giving himself to the tigress, but also see how this act would bring